Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the DK Live studios. If you joined us for the NFL Injury Report on Facebook Live a little earlier today, well, it's great to have you with us again. If not, I get it. You just love hoops. You know what? We like it too. I'm Adam Kaufman with a cast of characters. Shirag Hira right there. Julian Edlow is over here, obviously in studio with me. And guys, we're trimming tonight's show to a hard-hitting half hour, this particular episode, because quite frankly, it's a small slate. You've only got the 5 games, starting with the Pacers and Pistons and Knicks and Magic. Those both begin an hour from now. So the reason we're here, though, it's as much as we like talking basketball, we're here for you. Everything you need to know about lineup construction tonight, games to target, those to stay away from, which position is the most vital, who's the stud, value picks, who's hurt, all of it condensed into, again, a 30-minute resource of fantasy fun. You boys ready?
Yep, let's go.
This is what it's all about, right? You're just waiting. Enough of the basketball talk throughout the office all day, driving everybody crazy here. We're doing it right here. So get your questions in. We are on Periscope. We are on the DraftKings YouTube page. So hit us up, leave the hashtag DKLive, or just ask them right there within the Periscope platform, YouTube, wherever. We will see it. We will get it to you. We've also got one more member of our team. That's Brendan Glasheen. He is in the DK Live newsroom at the DK Live news desk. And Brendan, what's going on there, pal?
Hey, Koff, Julian, Shirag, how's it going, guys? 5-game slate. The first game you touched on there was that the Knicks are going to be playing the Magic on that early 7 o'clock start. And Kristaps Porzingis was the latest injury news to us. He is not playing tonight. Porzingis battling a sprained left ankle and a contused right elbow. Lance Thomas likely to get the start for the Knickerbockers. Also in the injury front for guys that are out tonight, 2 more stars. Warriors forward Kevin Durant is out with a thigh contusion, and Al Horford is in the Boston Celtics concussion protocol. He will not play on what they're calling Lonzo night in Boston this evening.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle, that one, Lonzo Ball and Jason Tatum. But, Brendan, obviously, well, guys, we'll touch on these in a little bit. Some key absences already. How about questionables? Who's still on the fence, Brendan?
Yeah, there's one key name tonight as far as questionables go. It's between the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns. One name is for sure that will play. We'll get to that in a second. But it's Tyson Chandler, the power forward, listed as doubtful, dealing with the back injury.
All right. How about who's in?
And the 2 key names that are in that game that I just mentioned, the tease there was Dion Waiters. The shooting guard was on hand for the birth of his son. And Waiters, after missing 2 games, will be back in the lineup for the Miami Heat. And then tonight for the Orlando Magic, the other Florida team. Elfrid Payton, the point guard, he will play, battling a hamstring injury. The Magic also today placing DJ Augustine on the inactive list. That made room to activate Payton, the weekend, whatever his name is. So he's available.
All right, Brendan, thank you very much. We'll check in with you again in a little bit. Guys, obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but I think you have to begin with obviously who's out. No Kristaps, no Horford, no Durant. What does this mean for these teams?
Yeah, these names totally flip this slate upside down. I mean, I woke up this morning,
broke the slate,
writing the NBA cheat sheet that you can find on the DraftKings playbook, and it was just a pretty standard slate. You know, this is a normal. So a ton of value just opening up throughout the day on this slate.
I'm just in shock. I've just been in shock all day, and I'm just like really just trying to digest it all. It's just like a puzzle, you know. Like I literally put all the pieces together, and somebody just went boom and knocked the whole puzzle off.
Yeah, pick it up and do it again.
All right, but what does it mean? And you touched on a couple of the names, guys like Enes Kanter, when it comes to the Knicks. But I think really what the people care about, obviously, is when you don't have key guys like that, who picks up the slack? You know, we talking about, I know, like Draymond Green with the Warriors. We're going to talk more about him a little bit later on as a guy that may very well be a great play tonight. He's coming off a very good game as it is. But Shirag, as you look at that Golden State game, that's the last game of the evening. When you don't have Kevin Durant, you're losing what? I mean, between 25 and 30 points typically from your lineup. They got to come from somewhere.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a concerted effort. The whole entire team is going to, put it together. But what's really stood out to me in my research is Stephen Curry from that. And I feel like, you know what, I liked him. He was a building block early in the week. I mentioned him. He plays great on national TV.
Coming off a horrid shooting performance.
He is a prime bounce back spot. I'm hoping that the ownership gets a little bit reduced due to that spot. But, after Durant got ruled out, it kind of made it like, well, hey, you need to get Curry in your lineups.
And the only other thing to add on to Curry there, I love him as a player tonight, getting that usage with Kevin Durant out. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they ranked 28th in the NBA defensively against point guards. So this was already a spot this morning that I really loved for Curry. You have the news of Durant going out. That really elevated him for me as the prime point guard play on this slate.
All right, so we'll have more time to talk about those guys, but told you about a couple of the games already, just listing them off for you, and there was practically half the slate because, again, it's just 5 games. So let's show you the rest here. We're going to bring them up so you can see what we're dealing with, and it looks like a lot of offense in particular. You can see some of those projected points, totals between the two lines. That Warriors game with Wolves, 227. Should be crazy there, but the Celtics, they're going to try for their 10th straight win and an NBA best 10-2 record at the Garden against Lonzo Ball's Lakers, a matchup of the 2nd and 3rd picks in the last draft, and that's at 8 o'clock. At 9, Suns and Heat. Neither team is really impressed overall this year, but again, fantasy, that's always another discussion, and expect some pretty good pace to that one. The Warriors and Timberwolves, marquee matchup. I think most people would agree on that. Golden State at 8-3, Minnesota at 7-3, but again, no Kevin Durant. So guys, Chirag, you talked about breaking the slate when you have a few guys, key guys, anchor-type players that are out of action tonight. So what are your main takeaways from the slate?
You know what's really interesting is that this slate is void of those guys, the Russell Westbrooks, Anthony Davis, the James Harden, those types of players that are 11,000 and above. So you don't really have to completely go, stars and scrubs in today's slate. Like, what really stood out to me was that Golden State and Minnesota game. Minnesota has always given trouble to Golden State, and now without Kevin Durant, you're getting back to a team where it's like, you have the old Warriors that were put together originally.
Yeah, the way this slate is going, the top 2 players priced on it are Kevin Durant at 9,700, Kristaps Porzingis at 9,500. They're out. So Steph Curry at 9,300 is our top priced player now, and those top names, along with Al Horford being out, open up value for you. So now there's more limited anchors here that you can build with, and then you get to the value, and it just becomes more simple to kind of put that puzzle together.
All right, we're working to correct some technical issues right now. We're going to get those corrected and make sure that you're hearing all of the key information you need from these guys. Let's go back to Brendan Glasheen, though, in the DK Live newsroom. And Brendan, keeping a close eye on lineups, obviously, as starters are being announced in the next little bit, and obviously key guys that are both in and out tonight.
Yeah, so some of the names you guys highlighted from the top, Al Horford, Kevin Durant, Kristaps Porzingis are all out today. You guys just made a note there about Steph Curry being 9,300, Klay Thompson at 6,800, Draymond Green at 7,500. You have to wonder now how the Warriors will spread the wealth tonight without their leading scorer, Durant averaging about 25 a game, which is considerably high considering that they spread the ball out pretty well. And the other likelihood with him out, Patrick McCaw will get the start for the Warriors. So in case you're wondering who that might be, check us out on DK Live for updates on him. We mentioned Al Horford. Now, a key note to his concussion and being in the concussion protocol, our updates, and from what we've heard from the Boston media, it's at least tonight. So looking forward for the Boston Celtics, you might want to look into Aaron Baines. Daniel Tice has seen noticeable minutes off the bench. Brad Stevens has also used different combinations in the front court, so it might not be Baines some nights. Now, certainly with no Horford, you'd have to think Baines is going to be a reputable option at the big man position. So keep an eye on Horford, not just for tonight, but going forward. Celtics are off to such a good start this year that they can maybe risk missing Big Al for a couple of games. So keep an eye on that. We mentioned Tyson Chandler still surfing the Twitter sphere here. No updates on the Suns forward and center. He's listed as doubtful with the back injury, so no updates yet on Tyson Chandler. He's the most interesting name as far as guys that are questionable for tonight. And then who's in? 2 guards tonight, 2 Florida NBA team guards that are playing tonight. Elfrid Payton with a hamstring injury was activated to the Magic roster today. He will play. DJ Augustine now heading to the inactive list. And then shooting guard Dion Waiters, due to a personal matter, he's missed the last 2 games. His child was born, so congrats to Mr. Waiters and having another child. Dion Waiters will be back after missing the last 2 games. He will be in the lineup at the Suns, and then Magic tonight playing against the Knicks with no Kristaps in the lineup there tonight.
All right, Brendan, thank you very much. And I think we've got everything corrected here. Brendan, one thing Brendan mentioned here, Julian, was obviously Dion Waiters. Now, I want to talk more about the guys that are out, but Dion Waiters, just because we like to have fun, especially in NBA with Narrative Street and that type of thing, Pretty good motivator when you're playing your first game after the birth of a kid, isn't it? Typically?
Yeah, not too shabby. I mean, he's been out for 2 games on that West Coast road trip. He's meeting the team back up kind of in the perfect matchup against the Suns, a fast-paced team. So a good spot for Waiters to get some shots up in a fast-paced game. And, he's a nice play on the wing tonight for the Miami Heat.
Speaking of narratives, Goran Dragic returning to Phoenix.
There's the narrative for that game
That's
right there.
the narrative, But I really like the build setup for Goran Dragic and using him in your lineups. But you know what? With so many value options open up and guards is open up, it just kind of seems like a slate where, hey, is that narrative going to be enough to push him over the top with Whiteside, looking to rebound, with Waiters back in the lineup, kind of, they will look to move Justice Winslow, who is kind of like a negative on offense, back to the bench, so I kind of feel like their offense would be more free-flowing tonight.
Guys, I have like 1,000 questions for you that we're going to try and get in between now and 6:30. But first off, which games are you targeting off that 5-game slate, Julian?
Yeah, I'm looking at that Celtics-Lakers game, and originally when we thought Al Horford was going to be playing, a little less attractive, the Celtics with the best defense in the league, but the #1 defensive rating player in the league so far has been Al Horford. Him on the sideline. Now you don't have to be quite as afraid of those Lakers plays, and then it opens up Marcus Morris, 4,000, Aaron Baines, 3,500. Those are some good front court plays, some more usage for Kyrie at 8,800.
Yep.
Al Horford's absence alone kind of flipped this game upside down and I think gives a lot more fantasy value to it.
Yeah, I agree there, and I'm a fan of this game, but you know what? I'm going to keep hammering that slate hammer. I mean, I feel like definitely need 2 Warriors tonight, and if you feel like, your build can lead you towards Karl-Anthony Towns, he's dominated against the Warriors all last season, and it's not a situation where you should be afraid right now. Big men have dominated the Warriors this year, and I don't feel like it's going to change right now.
All right, I'm glad you brought up big men. Continue to get your questions in on Periscope, YouTube, and hashtag DK Live. We'll see them. Don't worry, we'll get your questions answered before we're out. But big men, big debate. Lots of good players at point guard and center tonight. So, guys, if you're building a lineup, in which position are you likely leaning toward? Where are you going to invest your cash and maybe stack value with the other?
Yeah, so this is our big debate today, and Chirag and I have been talking about it for a while in the office. So many good point guard plays, so many good big men plays. How do you fit this all in? I don't see, when I'm kind of tweaking around with lineups, how you can't try and go 2 centers. I love Andre Drummond. He's one of my favorite plays on this slate. And then you've got Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Baines as the value play, who are center eligible only. Karl-Anthony Towns, center eligible only. I think you've got to try and find a way to get 2 of those guys into your lineup, which means you're using the utility spot on that. And if you do that, obviously the point guards are still a key to this slate. You can still find a way to fit Drummond and Baines with guys like Curry and Irving into your lineup. So I think you can go heavy on the bigs and still find a way to get enough elite guard play. But as Chirag will tell you, you can also squeeze those guards in, and it looks pretty good too.
Yeah, I've looked at a situation where, I was looking at roster construction with Kyrie and Curry, with taking advantage of both those injury situations for tonight's slate, and then taking the forward options. With Kristaps going out, now you have a forward opening up with Kyle O'Quinn. Then you also have, Marcus Morris expected to be back in the lineup, and, I'm expecting him to start tonight without Al Horford. Aaron Baines will start at center against Brook Lopez, and while Kyle Kuzma has been a great play, I don't consider him a great defender at this time. I mean, he's still a little undersized for the position, and Marcus Morris has played well against the Thunder. It's not something where you should be afraid, and he's 4K. I mean, that really opens up the slate a little bit, and it doesn't force you to have to just go min-price pump plays and just jam them in like that.
You're not worried about Kyrie Irving tonight? When you think back, all right? They lose Gordon Hayward 5 minutes into the season. Irving doesn't look comfortable the next couple of games. Still has Al Horford on the floor with him and a bunch of other guys. Tonight, no Al Horford, who he has just been dynamic with. They've been as good a 2-man tandem as you've seen in the NBA through the first 10, 11 games of the year. So you don't have him. So now all of the scoring onus, short of trying to maybe feed the ball to Tatum as he goes up against Lonzo Ball in this premier rookie matchup, struggle tonight.
This is a pace-up game for the Celtics, and you got to take the extra possession to Kyrie Irving. If you give him a couple extra possessions, that really pushes his ceiling a little bit higher. What's really interesting to see, though, is Kyrie did score 35 points against the Atlanta Hawks, and he barely broke 50 fantasy points. So it's like, at this price, you need him to do that.
He's got to get his buckets.
You have to do that. If he doesn't score over 30 fantasy points, it might actually hurt your lineup a little. So that makes it a little bit risky.
Like I said, I might be weary.
Yeah, and that's why the double center thing could work as well, because with centers you have those potential for extra rebounds, the potential for extra blocks. Kyrie has been stealing the ball almost at two steals per game, but he doesn't get the rebounds really. That's Baines and Marcus Morris over there.
Well, and even the assists, 5, 6, something like that. But let's get to your anchors, because that's one of them. The guys that you're starting your lineup with, that's who these guys are. We've taken a look at the entire slate, and again, it's 5 games tonight, but we'll show you some of the options here. You're going to have Steph Curry on this list, a guy who's come up already, guys. You can see him right there at the top. He is best of the bunch in terms of fantasy average. He's getting you about 46 DK points per game, but there's a reason he costs as much as he does. Coming off of one of his worst shooting nights ever. Talked about it before. 5 of 19, mostly wide open misses too. Has a favorable matchup with the Suns. Should be a well-paced game. He's going to have to carry that offensive load without Kevin Durant, probably. Kristaps Porzingis was going to be on this list. He is out, ankle and elbow injuries, and so we added Victor Oladipo down there at 7,700. Mr. Indiana, the guy's practically real-life Hoosiers right now, the way he's playing for the Pacers, making that trade look almost not embarrassing. Karl Anthony Towns, 31 points, 12 rebounds last time out. Efficient as hell after a 2-point game in Golden State. Irving, we talked about it. No Horford. Tatum, Jason Tatum could be motivated tonight on Lonzo night. Maybe it's another 20-point performance for him. Andre Drummond, 16, 19, and 3 steals last game. And the apocalypse is here because he's even hitting free throws this year. He's working well with his point guards. He's coming off a 54-point effort. That's fantasy points. Best game of the year for him, and he's prepared to face the Pacers at home. So, guys, how do you feel about this grouping of players? I know individually we've hit on a lot of them already, but as you're picking an anchor, you feel good about leaning on one of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, Drummond's the anchor that my eye initially went to. He's just been so hot lately, and the matchup against the Pacers, even with Miles Turner, they haven't been all that great against centers. You look at Drummond, you mentioned that 54 DK point game that he's coming off of, Kaufman. The game before that, he played 28 minutes, still managed 50 DraftKings points, and that's because he went 14 of 16 from the line. Last year, maybe he doesn't knock down those free throws. That's a 40 DraftKings point game. He's knocking them down this year, and you've got to factor that in for a guy that's going to get to the line that much.
He's shooting like 75% from the line.
It's his new form. His new form is really nice. He brings it up from the bottom, and then he goes up and shoots
Whatever makes it go in, man. He can shoot like Rick Barry for all I give a damn. This guy used to be a liability in the fourth quarter. You had to take him out. It was the whole hack of Drummond.
Yeah, agreed there. And, I really like that Drummond play. But on this slate, I feel like, you can pay up for the guy. And I think you need to start your lineup with Steph Curry. One thing to note, Steph Curry, last year, the one game where he did not make a three-pointer, 0 3-pointers in that game, you know what he did the next game? He set 9. the NBA record for three-pointers made in a game. So
that's correct.
How many was that? 10?
13.
13. Oh my
and
goodness.
So let's remember Steph Curry bounces back. Steph Curry bounces back in amazing ways, and he's on national TV without Kevin Durant. I think you need to start your lineup there. He's not that expensive. You don't have to pay that much. He's not even $10K right now, and all you need is like a 45, 50 burger, and you're good.
All right, let's go to Brendan out in the DK Live newsroom. Brendan, of course, taking a look at who is in, who is out, who's questionable. Let's begin with the key absences for anyone, Brendan, that may be joining us late.
All right, Koff, yeah, so we'll get those notable absences for tonight. Kristaps Porzingis is not playing in one of those earlier 7 o'clock games for the Knicks. He will not play. Porzingis battling a couple of injuries like we talked about earlier in the show. He's dealing with a sprained left ankle and a contused right elbow. So Kristaps is banged up, but hopefully the Unicorn can use his special healing powers to get back to strength quickly. Kevin Durant is not playing with a thigh contusion, and Al Horford also with a concussion, not playing for Boston.
All right, how about questionables? Any resolution there to the one guy?
No, still haven't heard on Tyson Chandler. That's a later game tonight, so we'll see, but nothing more on Tyson Chandler.
All right, and quickly those who are in, along with I'm sure you have some other additional news and notes for us.
Yeah, so Elfrid Payton will play tonight for the Orlando Magic. He was activated after a hamstring injury that actually worked out well timing-wise for the Magic because DJ Augustine was placed on the injured inactive list. So no Augustine, and Elfrid Payton is back in. 3 notes I want to get to quickly on the Miami Heat. Dion Waiters is the big one. He's back after missing 2 games. Waiters had a personal matter. He saw the birth of his child. So as you guys were talking about, hopefully he comes out and does well for the Heat in Phoenix this evening. The other news I wanted to get to with the Heat forward Tyler Johnson, he missed shoot-around this morning due to illness. He will play, and no question, no news about his role, but he will play tonight. Tyler Johnson, power forward for the Miami Heat. And there's another note here I wanted to get to about Hassan Whiteside. He was benched on Monday for the Heat, and he was asked by the Miami Herald before today's game if he's coming out with any extra motivation. This is before we started our show. The quote is, "Nah, man, I'm going to come out with the same motivation I always have. It's just the times are different." So sort of a murky end to that quote, but Hassan Whiteside, Dion Waiters, Tyler Johnson, all good to go. And quickly, before I turn it back to you, the Boston Celtics Twitter account just released the starting lineup for the C's tonight against the Lakers. It will be Aaron Baines and Marcus Morris, as well as Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kyrie Irving to round out the starting five for Boston against the Lake Show.
All right, Brendan. So I think that the starting five most people would have expected, given the absence of Al Horford. Basically, It's the, you had Marcus Morris, who did not play the last game. You knew he was going to be in there for this one. He started 2 games ago, so that was expected. And Aaron Baines, you're more often than not going to turn to him over Daniel Tice. But I do really think, guys, when you're thinking value, and we're going to go to value coming up in a couple of minutes here, Daniel Tice without Al Horford has to be high on that list because he could see some serious minutes, and we know, no, he's not going to get you a bunch of points, but he can rebound.
Here's my breakdown on this. I feel like, you know what, he might see a bunch of minutes, but for him, that's about 18. I would put him at a max of 18 to 20.
Sure.
The reason why is, you start Baines, you look at Baines about 18 to 22, then you bring in Tice at another 18, and this game could go small. Julius Randle plays the backup 5 for the Lakers. This game could go small, meaning Marcus Morris could slide over to that 5 spot as well and start. And then Jason Tatum's been playing great at power forward, been on the wings, so you kind of move down the list. Marcus Smart comes in and he plays shooting guard, he plays small forward. So this game,
hell, you might get Irving, Smart, and Rozier all in the court at the same time.
Exactly. So this is a game where it could go small quickly, and that's the reason why you don't want to lock in Tice for cash games. Yes, he's 3,000, and yes, he's cheap, and yes, he could do great against the Lakers, and they struggle against centers. Yes, and all that's great, but be careful because I see this game going small.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that starting lineup news just kind of confirmed what I was already looking at, that Aaron Baines and Marcus Morris are the 2 strongest values there. But if you are looking at GPP, Daniel Tice is minimum price at $3,000. We just talked about his minutes. Trog, you said you think he plays 18 minutes. Well, the last time Daniel Tice played 18 minutes, he scored 26 DraftKings points against the Sacramento Kings. So there's definitely some upside there. You just don't know if he's really going to reach there. Ever since then, he's barely totaled 10 DraftKings points in his last 3 games. Yep. So, he's kind of the wild card there for Boston. But those 2 values, those are the places in Baines and Morris that I'm looking there.
Let's show you the slate again. Again, it's 5 games tonight, and all these games could really produce some points. You'll see the over-unders, or projected point totals, I should say, and everything is above 200 points combined between the teams. I mean, even the Celtics with the league-best defense against the Lakers, a paced-up kind of game, as Chirag talked about, 213 points right there. 227, that's insane. Warriors and Timberwolves, especially without Kevin Durant, but it could get there. Steph Curry on one side, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins on the other, Draymond Green, a guy we're going to get to in a second, who has been just absurd this year in a couple of games that are right there in the 2 teens, if you will. But big debate here, guys. Point guards against centers in terms of where you want to begin your lineup, where you want to pay up, because you got strength at both those positions. So it really comes down to where can I find, to sort of flip the question on its side. It's really less about where do you want to pay up because there's so many good options here, and more a question of where can I get the biggest value at the other position.
Yeah, I'm looking at the slate, and you're getting forward value. Like, you have to take in your forwards and go and mark that out. Like, we got Marcus Morris starting at 4,000. Even if he plays 27 minutes, 24 minutes, he can get 20 fantasy points in that many minutes. And then it's really funny. I saw on the New York Knicks Twitter account, who their DraftKings player to watch was today? Kyle O'Quinn. Revenge narrative, going back to Orlando. Yep. I like that price. He's sitting here at 4K. What does he have to do to get up to 20 fantasy points? True. Not very much. So I like both those forwards. Take the value spots there, and then it still opens up an opportunity where you can have that flexibility and use the centers or the guards. Like, you know what? Honestly, if you're entering multiple lineups, I would go with one variation of guards and one variation of centers and use the punt forwards.
Let's do value here. Areas that obviously you can save some money, but bring back maybe a big return if all goes well. Another handful of guys that we like here based on their situations tonight, be it minutes, roles, matchups, narratives like we've talked about, all kinds of different things. We'll show you the list. Avery Bradley, he scored a season-high 24 last game, averaging 20 points. That's real points. His last 4 on 47% shooting, so he's been in a good groove with his new team. Goran Dragic, 27 points at least every single game in terms of fantasy. He's in Phoenix against his old team, Narrative Street. Chirag has mentioned that. Alex Len, a guy who always seems to come up on Prelock Live. 14 rebounds in 25 minutes, averaging 8 points, 9 boards his last 5. Has to deal with Hassan Whiteside, so there's going to be a competition for rebounds, obviously, but a guy who could be in a good spot potentially. Marcus Morris, and you may as well say Marcus Morris 1A, Aaron Baines 1B, given the no Al Horford news and the fact that both those guys were starting. We were just on that. Draymond Green, 18-9 Monday, while his teammates all seem to struggle against the Heat shooting. So, guys, I think Green is a good place to pick this up, Julian, because, again, Steph Curry, Chirag expects him to just set records tonight. He's so high on him. But no Kevin Durant. What do you think of Draymond?
Yeah, no Kevin Durant is going to open up that room to get Draymond into your lineups. For me personally, he's not a place that I'm looking. I much prefer Curry. And then when you get there, you know, we've been talking about these anchors. The 4 most expensive players on this slate with Porzingis and Durant out, you've got Curry, Towns, Irving, and Drummond. I think with the value that's opened up, you can fit 3 of those 4 guys into your lineup. Not to mention they're all between 8,400 and 9,300, so you don't even, these aren't, you know, over 10K guys where you really have to dig deeper into value. So
no James Harden tonight.
Right, no James Harden, no Giannis, no Russ.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a different kind of slate where you don't have to dig as deep, and that kind of got me off of Draymond just as more of a mid-price guy. I think he's around, what is he, 7,500 tonight. So he's not on the radar for me, but I think I understand with Durant out why he's a guy that can kind of appeal to you.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. You know, he's multi-position eligible, so it really opens up. If you want to use him at power forward, then use the other centers that have been opened up on the slate, go ahead. I feel like, you know, for value play, shooting guard is kind of weak today. I'm not a big fan of Klay Thompson. I'm not a big fan of Victor Oladipo tonight. I can't really see myself paying for those guys. You know, Victor Oladipo could get shut down by Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley's a legit defender, and that's the guy I'm looking at for value in this slate, and opening up that kind of slate where I don't need to force in, hey, I'm paying up now for my shooting guard as well. Where am I going to find all this value from? No, you know, pay for that mid-range shooting guard and then pay up for your point guards and use the value like that.
And, I mean, just to touch on one other spot there with Porzingis out quickly, Tim Hardaway Jr., we haven't talked about a lot yet. He's got to be getting a lot of looks with all the usage that Porzingis gets. He's at 6,100, so he's not necessarily a bargain or a value, but he scored 28-plus DraftKings points in his last 4 games. He had 42 in one of them, 30, 31. He had a 57 DraftKings point game in 41 minutes against Cleveland earlier this season. He's going to be getting up a lot of shots against Orlando, and although he's not necessarily a value guy.
Let's keep it rolling here because we only have a few more minutes left in the show. We've heard obviously most of the key stuff from Brendan Glasheen, but let's check in with him one more time in the DK Live newsroom. And Brendan, quick hits here. Who's out?
All right, guys that are out tonight. Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Durant, Al Horford. All bigs, all front court players, all stars.
All right, questionable.
Tyson Chandler, that game is a late game tonight. Phoenix against Miami. He's doubtful with a back injury, was limited last game. Tyson Chandler on a Suns team that is just wretched. The poor guy probably wants to get out of there. I don't know. Tyson Chandler is still doubtful for tonight, so highly unlikely.
All right, and lastly, those who may have been in doubt but are in tonight.
All right, so Dion Waiters, after missing 2 games, will play in that Suns game. Met the team in Phoenix after seeing the birth of his child. Elfrid Payton activated for the Orlando Magic today. DJ Augustine to the inactive roster. And then with the news to the Miami Heat as well, Tyler Johnson, forward. Missed shoot-around this morning. He's good to go for the Heat.
Perfect. Brendan, thank you very much. You can take off. Go have fun. Let's talk about questions, though, because we want to obviously help these people out. They're setting their lineups. They got about a half hour before the lock. So let's educate as best we can. Let's bring up the first one, see what we can get through, and make it through at least a handful of these here. From I won't try and read that on Twitter. Is Lance Stevenson a good play tonight? I'll add to that, Julian. Is he going to be blowing in anybody's ears or anything like that? Always possible.
Blowing people's ears, that's a pretty hard thing to project. But Lance Stevenson,
do you get points for that?
3,300.
No points for that, so it doesn't really matter. But in his last game, 28 minutes, 29 DraftKings points. He's only down at 3,300. He should get a decent amount of minutes on the wing. Is he one of my top value plays tonight? Not necessarily, but if your roster construction dictates that you have 3,300 and you need to get somebody in, that's definitely a place that you can look.
And like I said, punt at forward, and that is a
Exactly.
forward.
You
You
can
can use a forward. You can use them at 2 spots. And you know what? Like as I mentioned as well. Hey, you know what? I feel like paying down a little bit at shooting guard. Hey, Lance Stevenson fits right there. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible. I don't mind the play. I like it, but be careful because he's a volatile option. Don't plug him into your cash games. Do not use him in cash, please.
My, how the mighty have fallen. Okay, next one. Let's see, from, B-Rob will say, is it worth taking Tobias Harris over Draymond Green, Chuck?
Yes and no. The yes because you can lock him in for over 32 minutes, and he can possibly get over 35 if he stays out of foul trouble. I almost love Tobias Harris, and prior to all the news breaking, he was in my lineup. But after the news broke that Durant was out, I moved up and went to Draymond Green. But yes, you cannot be wrong with Tobias Harris tonight. He is a nice option, 6,600. Only has to get over 30 fantasy points. He can get there, and I really feel like, that's not a bad option. But pay for Draymond Green if you can pay for it.
Okay, would you like to get off his fence and tell me what you think?
I'm going to go with a firm yes here, Adam. I need Tobias Harris over Draymond Green for sure. Steph Curry is the warrior that I want in my lineup. So I'm going to lay off of Draymond, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. Give me Tobias Harris. Andre Drummond is one of my favorite plays on this slate, but he's still going to be dealing with Miles Turner, whereas Tobias Harris is going to have a much easier matchup at power forward, and we know we have no John Lord to kind of sneak in and get those backup minutes. He'll play plenty of minutes. I like Tobias Harris in this spot a lot.
Okay, we're tight on time. Just a couple more here. Let's get the next one up. It comes from Golden State Raiders. I don't know if that's a real team. Your thoughts on KD out? Julian.
We hit on this a lot. Steph Curry.
That's the answer.
Steph Curry is the guy that you want to go with here, and Trug likes Draymond too. But
my thoughts is do not play Klay Thompson because he will be defended by Jimmy Butler all night long.
Okay, last one. Last question. It comes from JV Official. How do you think Lonzo's going to do tonight in this rookie matchup? Chirag, I'm going to start with you because that's your guy.
Our Laker fan.
I'm very concerned about how he has been playing lately.
You should be shooting 29%.
Yeah, I'm super concerned.
That's not lately. That's in his career.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a solid play, but please, once again, don't use him in cash. And if you want to use Lonzo, your opportunity cost is really tough because you're giving up other guards, and there's a ton of great guards in this play, and I'm going to have to lean with no.
Here's the thing about Lonzo, and I'll let you go, Julian, here in a second, but I don't know his salary in front of me. I don't know it.
6,300.
Okay, so he's a guy that's obviously, he's going to flirt probably with a triple-double because that's what he does. He's going to get some assists. He's going to get some rebounds. He should get around 10 points. I don't think he's going to go off for 29 like he did in his second pro game, but this is going to be probably a tough matchup for him.
Yeah, this is not a spot for Lonzo Ball. I want no part of him. He's reached value, it looks like, twice so far in his career as a Laker. Only one of those games going off, that game against the Suns, one of the worst teams in the NBA against point guards. He laid a goose egg. He scored 0 points against the Blazers just last week, yeah. So going up against two of the highest rated defensive guards so far, players overall in the NBA, have been Kyrie Irving and Marcus Smart.
Surprisingly.
But even without Al Horford there to defend, they've got great perimeter defense in Boston. We know this. Not a spot I want Lonzo Ball.
Yep. Plus, honestly, we haven't even touched on this, and I don't want to spend time talking about it, but it has to at least be acknowledged. I don't want to project it. We like to have fun with Narrative Street, obviously. That can go the other way as well. And Lonzo Ball's brother was arrested in China earlier today. So it's fair to I'm not teasing. I'm saying he could be distracted. He could be a little mentally distracted considering his brother could be facing jail time in a Chinese prison for 3 to 10 years. This is not a joke. This is the real deal. So something to, think about because he was asked about it by the media today and shook it off like it's no big deal. It's very much a big deal. Guys, final thoughts, Chirag.
Play Curry. Got to do it.
Right into the point.
Fit as many centers as you can into your lineup and try and play 3 of those 4 top building blocks right there, our anchors.
All right, so there you go. Tomorrow, you're going to want to make sure you join us for Matchups Breakdown. That's at 5 Eastern on Facebook Live. Full preview of Week 10 in the NFL. I mentioned it earlier today. I'm going to be there with Pat Mayo, Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich. It's going to be angry. In fact, it's already a contentious setting right now. Pierce already wants to rip Pat's head off. I encourage you to check out that show.
I'll watch that.
Pardon me, a lot of football knowledge coming your way as well. If you missed any of this show, the beauty of this one only being about a half hour, is you can go back, you can rewatch the Periscope or on YouTube, whichever is more convenient for you. Learn more about everything you need to know with the lineups locking in now less than a half hour, 23 minutes. So get on it. In the meantime, for Brendan, for Chirag, for Julian, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy the light slate tonight. Should be fun.